Hi everyone, my name is TARDIsgirl and welcome to my channel. I'm trying out a new video background today, mainly because I want to show off more of this dress, but that won't detract from the point that we are talking about His Dark Materials Season 2, specifically the new HBO trailer that aired yesterday. I've already done my initial reaction video, but now I want to focus on my breakdown of the trailer, because even though it does reiterate a lot of plot points that we already knew, the specters, etc., Alamo Gulch, Lord Boreal, there are a lot of new shots and new information and new ways in which the series is going to divert and change from the original source material. So this won't be so much a breakdown, but more a theory video. So without any further ado, let's dive into my trailer breakdown reaction theory video on His Dark Materials Season 2, Trailer 2. Here we go.
The world's changing. We've all sensed it. The prophecy is clear.
In the opening shot, we see several Magisterium zeppelins around the opening that Azrael made between the worlds. So this is something that is hinted at and referenced in the books, but as some of the characters state in The Subtle Knife, this is such a monumental change that no amount of police interference is going to stop people wanting to emigrate. So it'll be interesting to see whether the series includes all of this, and includes the backlash against the Magisterium and the new excessive measures of force that come about after this world-shattering incident. Another thing the series might focus on is the amount of environmental change that happens after the worlds have been split. A massive fog rolls in, ice caps melt, tides rise and then fall, clouds of midges infest the air. I really want to see whether the show will include this. The next shot I found interesting. Ulrich Bernison is back, although I'm not sure what the purpose of this is. Ulrich Bernison is a character that is left out of The Subtle Knife and brought back in the third book, The Amber Spyglass, and his introduction in that book is at a very crucial point in the story because Serafina Pekkala is just informing him that Lee Scoresby has died. So if they're going to include this same story beat in season 2, this scene is probably taken from the penultimate episode after Alamo Gulch, and they're doing some subtle trickery to make us think it's before that scene. Although then again, they could just include Ulrich Bernison as part of the story, so who knows?
Our duty is to protect the girl and the boy, wherever they are.
Something happened in this world. There's something important that connects us to this place.
People are going to be looking for us. We need to be careful.
After we see Lyra and Will exploring the deserted Cittàgazze, we have a shot of Mrs. Coulter looking through a notebook, and I'm assuming that this is Dr. Cooper's notes on Lyra, as we can see a sketch of the silver guillotine on the opposite page. An alternate theory, this could be the genesis of Father MacPhail's plan to use Lyra's hair as a genetic weapon to kill her anywhere she is in any of the worlds. This comes to fruition in season 3, so they might be moving this story beat along, but we just don't know it yet.
Witches have been conspiring against the Magisterium. We must take control of this new world. Find the child.
She's in another world entirely.
One interesting thing that we can tell is when we see Mrs. Coulter torturing this witch, there is a side-by shot of what must be the witch's demon dying in a cage. But if anyone who knows the story knows that the witch has been separated from her demon and this bird was trying to fly back to her and die with her before Mrs. Coulter could continue the torture. Also notable of this scene, the witch that we see flying through the corridors of this ship is Ruta Skadi instead of Serafina Pekkala. So they may have slightly altered this scene so that Serafina Pekkala is not the one doing the rescuing, but it does look like we're going to have that iconic scene where a witch steps in and mercy kills her captured sister. And also in this scene, Mrs. Coulter is learning for the first time that Lyra is in another world entirely. Either she is learning this from Fra Pavel, the Magisterium's alethiometrist, or she might be learning this from the witch that we see her torturing, although it's hard to tell at this point.
You're a long way from home, Mr. Scoresby.
I've heard about your powers. And I'm looking for a girl named Lyra.
You will need the knife. One that could slice between worlds.
Then we better get going.
The next shot that I find important is that we see Lee Scoresby meeting John Parry, and we can see from this scene that they've included Lee's Navajo ring, which Parry was using to draw Lee Scoresby here. Obviously, John Parry's shaman powers are going to be introduced in this series. I don't think it's actually explained how he gained the ring in the book. I did interpret it as Parry was able to project his consciousness into another world, if not his body, but that doesn't really explain how he got the ring. I guess it'll be interesting to see whether the series follows it up. One thing I am a little sad about, we don't see much of Cyan Coulter. She is Parry's silent fishing eagle demon. She never says a word in the entire book, to my knowledge, and what makes her interesting is that she technically didn't exist until Parry crossed the boundary from his world to Lyra's world. So we can see that demons only manifest physically in the setting of Lyra's world. And Parry is the first character in this series to discover their demon. Next we have a closer look at the forging of the subtle knife, and one little book accurate detail that they've stuck to, which I love, is the design of the angel on the hilt of the knife. As the knife's other name, Esehetra, does mean God Destroyer, so this knife is capable of killing the highest of angels. Also, this was one of the moments that I was most excited for in the trailer. We see Will using the knife to cut between the worlds. I love the way they've interpreted this. It's not so much a clean cut, like a knife cutting through paper. It's more of a knife cutting through a film or a membrane, like he's peeling apart the living layers that separate the worlds. It's slightly grotesque, but it's beautiful as well.
Leave the winds to me.
The child will bring the end of the Great War. It is time to unite and destroy the Magisterium.
Stop this threat. Sacrifice. Whatever is necessary.
Next, we see the Magisterium rolling barrels of explosives. So this is most likely the scene where they use the naphtha blended with potash to try and smoke out Lee Scoresby and John Parry into Alamo Gulch so they can ambush them. However, considering the follow-up shots, I have a couple of new theories. We see the Magisterium burning the forest, but then a shot of the witches reacting to a similar inferno. Judging from those shots we see of the witches in that smoky, ashen wasteland, I have a new theory that the Magisterium were actually reacting to the witches and were trying to smoke them out or ambush them and kill them by setting the whole forest on fire. Considering the extent to which Father MacPhail talks about how witches are turning against them and starting an open rebellion, I think this new theory is kind of the more likely one.
I found her. She's in another world. Plagued by specters.
We're not safe here.
Next, another shot that has me completely and utterly puzzled. We see that specters can fly. What is this? It was a really, really important part of the book that specters couldn't fly. They were earthbound, just like other humans. That was why the witches were safer than most people. The specters couldn't get them in the air. Granted, I don't know the context of this scene, but if specters can fly from the outset, that radically changes the timeline of the story. In the book, Mrs. Coulter actually manages to get the spectres on her side by giving them the promise of a larger hunting ground, and she is the one that enables them to fly and kill all the witches in a sudden attack. So, I say again, if the spectres can fly from the outset, how is Mrs. Coulter going to manipulate them? How is this going to play a part in her alliance with the spectres? I am not sure yet. We have a shot of what must be Tullio, Angelica and Paolo's older brother. But in this season, it's going to be Angelica and Paola, because the actress had such a great screen test with Bella Ramsey that they decided to gender flip the character. I will say again that the spectres really are like dementors. I mean, this scene of them is horrifying.
I think I'm changing. We both are.
You are so like I was.
It's time to fight.
We see a shot of Mrs. Coulter crossing the barrier between worlds with Lord Boreal, but what's interesting is I'm not too sure where she's crossing over. It's clearly not that gated area in suburban Oxford, so maybe Boreal has found a world from his Oxford to Cittàgazze? It would make sense considering that all the openings originate from Cittàgazze. The next interesting moment is we have a scene of Mrs. Coulter reiterating how Lyra is just like she was when she was young. She clearly must be saying these sort of words to Lyra, so are we going to have a confrontation between Mrs. Coulter and Lyra in this series? This never happens in the book. Lyra always manages to stay just out of Mrs. Coulter's reach up until the very end of the book. So it'll be interesting to see where they've worked this scene in. My personal theory is that Mrs. Coulter is going to be stalking Lyra while she goes through the Natural History Museum, as we do see a scene of the monkey crashing into one of the display cases. And I recognise this because I've been to that museum a couple of times, and every time I go there I feel like I'm stepping right into the subtle knife. It's a bit of a fangirly moment for me.
Run. The greatest war there ever was is coming.
We have several shots of Alamo Gulch, and the trailer penultimately ends with a shot of Scoresby's balloon on fire and about to crash, so they might have upped the tension for this scene. But the final shot of the trailer, we see the fight between Tulio and Will over the knife, and one of the most iconic moments from the book, the knife flies out of their hands and sinks into the stone floor of the Torre degli Angeli like it's sinking through butter. If there wasn't already an indication that this knife is supremely OP, this is it. I was so pleased to see that iconic scene in the trailer, and it got me all excited for season 2. Those are my main observations, my main theories. As I've stated over and over again, it looks like they may be changing a lot of the narrative sequence. Things may be happening differently to different characters or at different points, but this is all based on assumptions, so they could be sticking religiously to the book. I just don't know yet. Considering my level of touchiness when changing an adaptation, I've been really okay with a lot of the changes they've made in season 1, such as Mrs. Coulter revealing that Asriel was the father, revealing Will in season 1 instead of introducing him at the beginning of season 2. So whatever they come up with in season 2, I'm sure it won't change the story too dramatically. And in all truth, I don't mind as long as they do it well, because they've already proved themselves with one season. I'm sure they can do it again. This trailer looks like they can. So, unless they drop any new footage, I'll be seeing you guys soon for episode 1. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel down below if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!